Hey, it's Liz at Book Learning. Welcome back. Today I wanted to give you a good view of the garden with the windows half open. It is freakishly cold for the summer, but after the 100-degree heat before the heat index we had about a week ago, I'll take it for now. Hopefully the garden grows well despite this little cold snap. So today I'm going to catch up on the History Trail tag. Candace at, Beacon Hill Books. She tagged me a while ago and I had to think hard about it because some of the questions made me go back a ways. So let's get started. The first question is, first steps. What noun introduced you to history or historical fiction? So in terms of writing, I would say it has to be Johnny Tremain by Esther Forbes. We read it in 4th grade, and I was quite horrified by the accident that befell the main character, but it was really fascinating to me to explore early American history, or early national history, from reading this book. And then the other is, of course, my dad's obsession with the Brother Cadfael series on the mystery. It's a PBS thing that ran from 1994 to 96 with Sir Derek Jacobi. And it was a book series written originally by Ellis Peters, one of the nom de plume of Edith Pargeter. But I loved Sir Derek Jacobi as Brother Cadfael, and it was fascinating to see. I liked all the botany things that he did in the series, as well as just a glimpse of a period of time where people were affected by having to have fought in the Crusades. So, question number 2, well-trodden path. What is your favorite historical recommendation? Again, I have 2. I would say The Seamstress of Hollywood Boulevard by Erin McGraw. It's the story of a pioneer woman, the child of pioneers, who doesn't like that life, and so she sets off for Hollywood to become her own person. And I thought it was really interesting. I don't know why, but the phrase that sticks out to me is when she's being compared to other women of marrying age, and the main character is, of course, not as viable a candidate, whereas this other woman of marrying age is said to be able to turn a pantry with nothing but tired old apples into a fantastic meal. And I don't know why it made me think of I don't know why that sticks in my head, but it does, and I think it's because it made me realize just how tough life could be on the frontier when you might literally only have tired old apples in your pantry between harvests. Anyway, the second book that I would recommend is Doc by Mary Doria Russell, and I'm about to read Epitaph, which is the whole reason I read Doc. Doc is a historical fiction, a very big historical fiction, but easy read, about Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp. And then Epitaph is about the shootout at the OK Corral. I'm super excited to read it soon. I think those are pretty approachable, adventure-y type stories. There's history in them, but it's not too much. And there's not a lot of romance, which is something that can trip me up in historical fiction. Question number 3, good boots. What is your favorite historical fashion era? And I had to think about this a lot, and I can't come up with anything in particular except any time period in which I would be allowed to wear pants as a woman. Question number 4, close to home. What is a historical read set in your home country? So, like a lot of American responders to this particular tag, that is a bit of an easy mark So I wanted to highlight something set even closer to home, which is Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. Hidden Figures is set in Virginia broadly, and more specifically the Hampton Roads area, which is where I'm from, and Langley, and another counterpart, Jefferson Laboratories, are some of the biggest employers still in that area. So if you haven't checked out Hidden Figures, it's about the black women who sent essentially John Glenn into space. So it's great. Let's see. Question number 5. Trail not taken. What historical eras do you avoid? I'm not so good at ancient history, but I think it's more. I tend to avoid geographies for some reason, not out of malicious intent, but if I don't know enough about it, then I'm not sure where to start. So, in terms of taking up those trails, I tend not to take. Confessions of Young Nero by Margaret George was a fantastic introduction to ancient Rome, and I'm really looking forward to reading more about that topic now. So thank you, Candace, for the recommendation. And then in terms of geographies, I say I'm fairly woefully undereducated about just the southern hemisphere in general. I am trying to address that a bit, and I have some quick recommendations for you. The True History of the Kelly Gang by Peter Carey is a story of Australia. The Other Slavery by Andres Resendez is the story of the New World, more like the Spanish New World or the current American West, told from a kernel of the enslavement and maltreatment of indigenous peoples. But it's really good. The Power of One by Bryce Courtenay is about South Africa, told from the perspective of a young white boy who gets into boxing and also has to confront apartheid. And then finally, The Lost City of Z. It's a good exploration of the Amazon from the perspective of explorers. So it's not really like an own voices kind of thing, but I don't really care about that as much. It was just a good introduction to the possibilities of reading about that area for me. So, trail map. Question number 6 is trail map. What historical reads are on your TBR? I needed to keep this to a minimum because I have so many, but I'm going to answer with City on the Edge by Mark Goldman. It's the third book that he wrote about Buffalo, New York, which is where my parents are from. I've been reading it for 3 years because it just makes me think so much. My brain just goes bananas when I'm reading it, so I can't seem to read more than a chapter at a time, and then my mind just goes off. But it's interesting because he's written 2 other books. The first one was surprising. One of the first 2 was surprisingly pessimistic. The other of them was surprisingly optimistic. And this third one takes a moderate approach. And that's why I picked it as opposed to the other 2. But it's just a history of Buffalo, New York. I love it. And then I'm looking forward to picking up Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin because Abraham Lincoln. So, question number 7. What historical person inspires you? So I've heard a couple of responses to this talking about how, historical figures can't inspire you because they're flawed characters. And I kind of disagree with that because everybody's human and everybody has flaws. And I mean, you can't take that without, you can't, why can you not be inspired by someone who is human and imperfect? Um, of course, Abraham Lincoln, but to give somebody else a spotlight, I'm going to go with Jill Carr Conway. She is an Australian who moved to Canada with her husband and then became the first female president of Smith College. She's written The Road from Karain, which a former boss of mine gave to me, and I absolutely loved it. I just loved seeing her choices, seeing her adventure, her independence, and her intellectual drive. And then the last question is tag your fellow history nerds. I think everybody's done this, so I will refrain from tagging. But if you're watching this and you haven't done this tag, please consider yourself tagged.